Welcome to Philly NetSquared, Net Tuesday for April, and we're very pleased we have a special event today. How many people, is this the first time they've been here? I think that's about 30%. Okay. We see how this works, and that's a typical sort of percentage. So I'm going to tell a little bit about what Philly NetSquared is as we move forward before we get into the event itself. We'll also do some go-round introductions. You'll have a chance to introduce yourself. And there are actually NetSquared groups around the world in various different places, different countries as well as the U.S. And they define themselves somewhat differently. They're all affiliated with TechSoup Global, the large nonprofit technology provider located on the West Coast. And as far as we're concerned, we tend to think of our purpose as using the social web for social change, as being our kind of cohering theme. And the main way in which we try and manifest that are with these Net Tuesday events. So the first Tuesday of every month, we have these events. We've been doing it now. We just realized that this is the end of our 4th year, and we'll be celebrating our 5-year anniversary next month. We'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. We also have the Tuesday after tonight, we'll have a planning session, which is actually a conference call. And people are invited to join that conference call and provide their input about where they think things can go next. And there's no obligation to actually do things if you get on the call. See me if you want to access instructions. We have a website and a Google group that the Google group gets some activity in terms of people asking questions, doing referrals, making announcements, and stuff like that. This is the past year of events we've had. You can see that they cover a wide range of different topics relating in some way to what would be helpful for people interested in using the social web for social change. One of the things that you'll see repeated there are these crowdsourcing change events, which we do every couple of months. And these are events where we bring in usually 3 local nonprofits. They talk about their website and their social strategy. And then the crowd, which is you, provide them feedback, ask questions, give perspective and advice, and it's been a very interesting and useful sort of thing. And in fact, we're doing it next month to celebrate our 5th anniversary. So the crowdsourcing change will be happening next month. This URL there, tinyurl.com with our philnet2-crowd. You can submit an application for your nonprofit or another nonprofit, and we'll be selecting them over the next few weeks. Denny, do you want to say anything about it? Denny's our moderator.
Yeah. Well, for the people who have been to prior ones, they're always very lively and interesting. And it's our 5th anniversary. We're looking to get a good crowd. So if you know of any good organizations, if you think you're an organization would be a good one to go up there, please sign up. We're looking for 2 or 3 good organizations.
Okay, thank you. In addition to the activity happening in this room, we are actually projecting this into cyberspace. There are 2 cameras there and there. If you would prefer not to be on videotape, the video free zone is over there, and Steve, who's pushing the cameras, will make sure that that doesn't get on videotape. In addition, we're supporting a Twitter back channel, and if you are using Twitter and use a hashtag of PHLNET2, we'll be monitoring that stream. Andrew back there is actually monitoring the stream.
Wireless actually isn't working, so I'll be monitoring as I can.
No, we'll get you fixed up. We'll get that fixed.
Yeah.
But he will be monitoring it. We are confident. And if there are questions or comments from cyberspace, he'll represent them in the room. In addition to the events themselves, this is really all about networking. So please sign the sign-in sheet and make sure that your name is legible. What I'll do is I will compile that information and send it out just to the people in this room. Just the people in this room so they can have each other's email addresses. And the same thing with a business card. If you leave a business card, we'll scan that and send copies of business cards out to everyone in the room. If you don't have a business card, you're welcome to use a blank, or you're welcome to use a blank even if you do have a business card because you feel like someone else tonight. If you have a 2-sided business card, I'd like to ask you to leave 2 copies so it'll make it easier to scan. People are wearing tag tags, so you can tag yourself with your name tag, your information about your name, but also something else about yourself. And this is to lower the barrier and invite you to have a conversation with someone next to you and open that up. And we have a strict no questions too stupid policy that we challenge people to try and overcome each month. So far, no one has. A little bit of housekeeping. There's food over there. Please eat it. We don't want to take anything home. The Friends Center, the building in which we're having this, is a LEED Platinum certified building. We do a lot of composting. And so all of the food, including the meats and cheeses, the plates and the cups are all compostable. And you should put them in the green bin if you can. The only thing that's not compostable up there is the plastic wrappings around the hoagies. Bathrooms are right on the other side of the elevator. There is Wi-Fi access, and we'll find out why that's not working. But is anyone else trying to use Wi-Fi now? Are you getting through?
Strong signal, but I can't get the internet.
Okay, so the next thing to do would be to try. There's another one called Friends Wireless, and the password is, well, you have to remember it. Sorry, Friends Center with a capital F, a capital C, and a period in between. So it's capital Friends, capital F, lowercase Friends, period, Center with a capital C for the Friends Wireless network as opposed to the Friends Guest network. So go ahead and try and use that. As I said, we are video recording this. There's a video-free area. We will be using microphones, and the purpose of the microphones is not so you can be heard within the room, but so that it can come out audibly on the stream and on the recording. So we'll be passing around a wireless microphone during the go-around introductions and trying to pass them around as well during questions and answers, and ask for your patience in trying to use a microphone. If you parked across 15th Street at the lot over there, get your ticket validated at the front desk, and you'll get a discount on your parking fee. And for those who are interested and would like to continue the conversation more informally, we'll go out for a drink and/or bite afterwards, and everyone's invited to join us. Our sponsor for this event is the American Friends Service Committee, which is one of the tenants of the Friends Center campus. The AFSC is an international NGO that has programs that do peace and social justice work around the world, and we're pleased to have them be able to sponsor us. And we'll get to this now. So we're going to go around and introduce ourselves, and you're being asked to, if you want, optionally, everything is always optional, to indicate what your organizational process is for the venture, the nonprofit or other venture that you're dealing with, and how that handles social media and social networking. And this will give Amy a little information about the folks in the room. Do you want to say anything else, Amy?
Sure. I can explain what that question means, because those are strange words altogether. So basically, I'm just trying to get a sense and hope that we can all give each other a sense of where we're at as far as, in my organization, there's one person that manages Facebook and another person that manages our emails, and they do not talk to each other. Or we have a meeting every week, and everyone talks about communications, or somewhere in between. Does that make sense? There's nodding. If you're not nodding, it's too late. We will never explain it again. Sound good?
Yes. Okay, thanks. So my name, as I said, is Seth Horowitz, or maybe I didn't say that. I'm Seth Horowitz. I work here with the American Friends Service Committee. I work in the IT department, and I'm working on information architecture for our internal intranet. And so the social media and social networking doesn't get handled by my department. It gets handled by the communications department. And I'm not going to say any details about that because there's at least one representative of the communications department here that I'm going to put on the spot for that. So that'll get to that point as we get to it.
I'm Paul Kogan with Back Office Thinking, and we do consulting in this space as well. So I'm very interested to hear what Amy has to say. I gave a talk last week out in Colorado on something similar. And our personal social media is horrible, as most consultants who consult in it, it's really bad. So I'm sure hers is excellent because she wrote a book about it. But we basically have one person that manages it and like 5 of us that input things. And usually if you can't understand what's been written, it's usually me who's done that one. So we have a lot to learn ourselves, but I'm really looking forward to this talk.
I'm Ronnie Little. I've actually am not with a nonprofit. I'm just interested in social media and online outreach for nonprofits. I do pay-per-click marketing for an agency, and one day I hope to do something a little more meaningful than, market for lawyers and locksmiths and dentists and things like that. So.
I'm Arthur Watzko. I'm a rabbi, but in good Quaker fashion, rabbi is not my first name. Arthur is my first name. I'm director of the Shalom Center, which is a national network, mostly Jewish folks, but also some Christians and Muslims and people of independent spirituality, who are working on issues of war and peace, of social justice, and especially on issues of healing the relationship between humankind and the earth. In terms of our media and social networking, we have a staff of 2, and I do most of the writing, but the 2 of us plus an expert on contract and several members of our board consult on the processes of how to use email, how to use Facebook, how to use Twitter. I guess those are the areas in which we're doing things.
Hi, I'm Linda Case. I'm new to the area, and I'm exploring opportunities with nonprofits, hopefully financial literacy, and I don't have any comments about this particular subject.
Just as a point of information, I'd like to ask people to put the microphone close to their mouths. It's not a very good, it's a directional mic, and it needs to be actually pretty close to where the sound is coming from.
I'm Tony. Ariza. I work for the American Friends Service Committee, which is in this building. I'm in the communications department. But because our web editor is sitting next to me, I'm going to pass the question on to her.
My name is Nia Montero. I'm the web editor with the American Friends Service Committee. That's a tricky question. Right now, we have channels that are sort of the main organizational ones that are loosely managed by about 5 people. We try to talk to each other to make sure we're not doing things that conflict with other people, but we're actually in the process of hiring a social media specialist who will have more of a role in coordinating our social media content on our main channels, and then also we have probably between 20 and 30 accounts for our programs on different platforms as well.
Hi, I'm Tim Siftar. I'm a librarian at Drexel University, and we are a big organization that has every different kind of, we have a media relations office at the university level, and then for the libraries, we have someone we just hired in the last 2 years as a communications officer. Yay. Used to be that it was kind of the Wild West and we all did our own thing. Now we have some standards and some branding that we feed through our communications officer for, our newsletter and our constant contact and the main blog post. But the librarians still outreach to their own individual populations via blog posts and tweets and newsletters and every other sort of thing.
Hi, my name is Lamar Kendrick, and I'm involved in a variety of social and commercial ventures. And I like coming to this event activity to stay abreast of what's happening in social media. We have no process. I don't even know how to answer that. A lot of talk, but little action. Hopefully, with Andrew's help, we'll get there. He's been a real gem.
Hi, I'm David Saul from Omicron Development. We're an IT consulting firm primarily focused on SharePoint, but we also do other pieces. We do mostly commercial, but we do some nonprofit work. As far as our processes, as a consultant, we get our own services last, and all of our customers get it first, so our systems are really a mess, I'm sorry to say. But we do use it. We do use social media for recruiting primarily because, quite honestly, in our field, there's a real shortage of talent, and we find that the social media is really the best way to recruit.
I'm John James. I'm working on a number of very different projects, and Most of them is just me, and so I'm learning something.
Hi, I'm Brian Crenshaw. I'm actually associated with two different groups, the local chapter of the Sierra Club and my son's choir, the Keystone State Boy Choir. And organizational process, parent volunteers. I spearhead it, and folks help me out as much as possible.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Soltis, and what can I say? I am currently not involved in any cohesive organization because I lived here in Philadelphia for many years, was involved with various peace, social justice, and environmental groups, worked through them. I'm now living out in Chester County, trying to organize out there and finding it a hard nut to crack because it's so far flung. Can't find a central meeting place, so all I have right now is my e-list that I exported from the city. So I'm looking forward to some way to connect with social media and maybe get something going out there where we desperately need it.
Hello, my name is Dick Ladson. I'm owner of Veteran Computer Consultants, a IT consulting company. My past, I've had about 41 years of experience with Unisys Corporation. Then I retired and did 10 years of IT consulting. Then I retired and did entrepreneurship. Now, if you're adding up the numbers, that comes up to about 54. So I lay claim to being the world's most experienced IT guy. So if any of you have trouble with your punch cards, look me up.
I'm Paul Glover with the Patch Adams Free Clinic. And Jim Worcester and I, Jim here, and I manage our moderators for the listserv, the Facebook page, and the constant contact list.
Hi, I'm Sue Deutsch, and I was with the Women's Resource Center, and what we did with social media was very small-based. We hired an intern for the year and gave it to her, so we were really out of it. Unfortunately, we're getting back.
Hi, my name's Conrad. I'm here representing TICPA residents. Ben Abramson is the director of IT services for that, and he's done all the work almost by himself now. TICPA is not an up-to-date organization as far as crowdsourcing and social media, so I'm here to try to learn a little bit. What I'm trying to get them to think about is something like a crowdsourcing, like Indiegogo. Go with that for a starter, and maybe use something like MailChimp as an easy way to get into access to a lot of people. But all that's still in the beginning stages, and I could use any help that I can from this group tonight. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Annie. I'm mostly here just for myself, but I also intern here at Friends Center. I'm technically not doing any social media because I'm still trying to reach out to trying to convince my supervisor that it's better to have more of a web presence than just a website. It's not going so well, so I'm hoping for more advice, suggestions, how to convince her.
Is your supervisor in the room?
Hi, my name is Mo. I work with a nonprofit called Generosity. We're actually in a fortunate position because our main mission is to promote, raise awareness about, and generally support social good. So we actually have one person who mainly leads our social media, but we kind of work as a team to strategize about it. And so we have kind of a portion of what we do. I'm the head of marketing, so it's kind of my job to make sure that everybody uses social media and promotes what we're doing through it. So it's a coordinated effort.
My name is Jay Nackman, and I'm a freelance public relations consultant, and I've worked primarily in the cultural community. And I guess the one thing I can say is that I've seen most organizations, mostly small or medium, good-sized, go from let's hand it over to an intern to realizing we need a dedicated person and dedicated expertise for this area.
My name is Brianna Morgan. I am here from the Office of HIV Planning, which is a small health planning organization. I'm in charge of all of our internet things. So web design and development, our social media channels, anything, all the content, pretty much everything that goes up.
So I just mostly try not to say anything too stupid.
Hi, I'm Denny Casrell. I work for a local nonprofit health insurer here in Philadelphia. Due to the types of constituencies that we serve, we're fairly highly regulated about what we can and can't do with social media, but we do have some presence. We're looking to do more. We do have a process that starts in our communications department, but we do bring in other people when necessary. And just looking to expand.
My name is Gene Miller. I'm just trying to learn more about social media because email is really not reaching people.
Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Andy Sharp. I wear a few top hats, and I guess I'll talk about my role with DVART, the Delaware Valley Association of Rail Passengers. I created and managed the Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube pages for them. There are a few different people who post, and with the Facebook page, a ton of members who post. And basically, my job is to coordinate everything and make sure our members don't get too out of hand.
My name is Louise Salinas, and I work here in the building in a Quaker organization called Friends World Committee for Consultation Section of the Americas, otherwise known as FWCC. And we're a small organization. We're an association of all the Quaker meetings and churches in North, South, Central America, and the Caribbean. And so I work as the associate director or associate secretary, and I'm the accidental techie. I maintain 2 websites. I do constant contact for e-news, events, and surveys, and I do a couple other things. Our executive secretary does Twitter and blogs, and we both do Facebook regularly, and we both post pretty frequently and bilingually in English and Spanish.
Hi, my name is Jim Worster, and I guess this month I am representing a new organization that I'm trying to birth. It's called New Avenue Foundation, and its mission will be to create meaningful communities for people with disabilities. And right now, our social networking is all word of mouth.
Hi, I'm Patricia Westphalen. I'm an artist, designer, writer, and I'm here by myself to learn about all of this.
Hi, I'm Ben Brockman, and I'm currently working here at the FSC, and just have a general interest in social good and social media.
Hi, I'm Angelina. I'm mostly here because I'm interested, but I also work with the Envision Peace Museum, and that communications team is a blend of staff, board, and non-board volunteer, which makes life very interesting, but good.
Hi, my name is Nicole Marcasani. I am making an independent documentary right now on internships. So I'm really just here to figure out how we can use social media to just have more people visit our pages and get more awareness to the project.
Hello, I'm Marissa Millerick. I work with a production company called Center City Film and Video. We are located in the Comcast Center. We also have a couple offices around town. And I'm the social media manager. I manage our Facebook page and our Twitter page. And I'm also taking on clients now, like a documentary about newspapers that you should all follow and like on Facebook, black, white, and dead all over. We feature the Inquirer, the Washington Post, and the New York Times. And I'm here to learn.
Hey everybody, my name is Maureen Schultz. I'm the accidental social media manager for a couple nonprofits and small companies, and everything's pretty new to me, but it's been a really great process, and I'm just here to absorb and pick up some new tips. Thank you.
Hi, Mitch Collier with a consulting firm in Philadelphia that does work for the federal government, for NIH, CDC, for our own social media outreach. Basically, we stick to LinkedIn, and our staff follow other feeds, Twitter or Facebook. LinkedIn is great for recruiting and identifying partners and that kind of thing. For the clients, when we've had a chance to work in social media with the agencies, it's been basically an assigned task, and I think it was pretty much me, actually, but it was very interesting. I also want to say that after 4 plus years of attending these meetups, I think I'm starting to get it.
So 4 years is the barrier.
That's
Awesome.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, so whoever's just starting.
Only 4 years to go.
Do you want to go back before we get to what someone
I'm Jacques Raphael. I run Advocacy, which is a website where the idea is to crowdsource information on sustainability. Bonus question, organizational process. So it works really well because my Facebook feed feeds directly to Twitter, and the more posts I do on Facebook, the more followers on Twitter I get. So that's pretty much what that's it. Nice.
Hi, I'm Nancy Massey. I consult with a lot of small nonprofits, and part of the reason why they bring me in is because there is no organizational process.
I'm Alec Cox, and I came to Philadelphia from Texas in the 1950s, and because of the Quakers, and I haven't been disappointed. Still working for the same things, and right now I just got a new iPad for Christmas because my family wants me to be able to begin to communicate in a more effective way. And so yesterday I was able to find out about this meeting on my new iPad. But anyway, my focus right now is trying to do something about the proliferation of lethal weapons on the streets of Philadelphia and in the Middle East and around the country, and the munitions and the prison industrial complexes that are destroying families. And so I'm hoping to, through social media, to work more effectively for those causes. Or rather, yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andrew Sather. I work for an independent law library downtown called Jenkins Law Library, and at Jenkins, actually, I'm in the IT department, so I don't see much of our social media efforts. We do have a coordinated effort through a couple people. Anyone in our PR department basically handles all of that, and I wish I could give you more details on the specific process, but I know one exists at the very least. So.
Hi, my name is Mary, and I actually am associated with social media in two ways. I'm a contractor at the University of Pennsylvania, and they have over 700 departments. And it's been very interesting as I travel through departments to see how they have dedicated people just to social media. In Wharton Communications and Publications, just 2 people work full-time to make sure that the branding of Wharton is not stepped on. And then as a volunteer, I sit on a board of directors for a camp, and there are 2 of us who work on all the social media platforms.
Let's see if I can do this. It's tricky to do, try to get yourself on camera. Last but not least, I'm Steve Lubetkin, Podcast Steve on Twitter, if you follow Twitter. My company produces audio and video content for the web, which people sometimes call podcasts. And the organizational process we use regarding social media is really simple. Social media is not separate from content. You have to have a content-driven strategy that creates good quality content on a repeatable basis on your website. And you use social media as a way to engage people to look at that content and bring them back to your website. And I have a visceral dislike for YouTube channels and posting directly to Facebook. And if anybody's interested, I'll tell you why.
Thank you. Okay, so one of the things that I meant to mentioned before is that the book that Amy is co-author of and is going to be talking about is for sale up at the desk up there, and Mary will gladly take your money to give you a book if you like. So we're going to turn this over to Amy in a second. I met Amy in 2009 when I went to my second NetSquared conference out in California when there were NetSquared conferences, and I think that was the last one. It might have been. And Amy was the community development manager to support NetSquared local groups around the country and around the world. And that's the context in which I met Amy. She was living in Portland at the time, and I guess involved in Portland NetSquared. Was that such a thing?
I started the Portland NetSquared in 2007, but in 2009 I was already living in England.
And when she moved to England, she worked with London NetSquared
Yes.
and was even more active in engaging international affiliates to open up NetSquared groups around the world. Since then, she's actually moved back to New York City and now is involved in this context in the 501 Tech, whatever, which is the NetSquared affiliate in New York. Amy's a prolific writer. In 2009, she co-authored Social by Social, which is a handbook for using social technology for social impact. She blogs at amysampleword.org, and she's also a contributor to the Stanford Social Innovation Review. She has presented at a lot of places around the country and around the world, as well as consulting with nonprofits. And she actually does have a real job that as the membership director of NTEN, the Nonprofit Technology Network. And so it is my great pleasure to introduce Amy Sample Ward.
Yay! Is my thingy working? Yeah? Yeah? Awesome. All right. Seth? I am not scared of technology. Bam! I pressed the button that said lectern. So, lo and behold. I'm going to try and maybe move this and have my laptop not break. I believe this is possible. Yes. Terrific. Okay. As Seth said, very kindly and overindulgently, I'm Amy. I'm really excited to be here. It's only my second time in Philly, and I walked down the street to go to the name of some place to get a quick bite and tried to bask in and absorb all of the Philadelphia because I actually really love the city, and I'm going to find another way to come back because train isn't very far from New York. A few reflections on the go-round. Sounds like there are a lot of cobbler's shoes in this room. It sounds like Steve would like to do the presentation next month. And it sounds like there are a lot of people that are maybe at that phase, whether you're in an organization or not, of totally believe there's potential here. Definitely don't have time to deal with whatever that potential may be, or a lot of how do I figure out of all of those things that are possibilities, which one thing I could do tomorrow and maybe what next thing I could do the day after that. Is any of those things ringing any bells? There are some people, okay, this woman is like, yes, this is just my presentation now. So that's awesome. So I'm going to try and present a bit, but because there is a book and because it came from my mind, I could talk forever. So please stop me at any time. Tell me to fast forward if it's something that you have heard before or you already know. Tell me to rewind if it is making no sense, which is very plausible, and I will say it all again in a different way because I want this to be valuable for you, and I've thought all of these thoughts before or said all of these things before. So I want this to be whatever you want it to be, and if we get halfway through the slides and everyone turns on me in a nonviolent way and is like, let's totally co-create a new event, I will go there with you. So there are slides. They could be a point of departure, but I hope it's a good starting place before we break into some smaller groups and have a little bit of a competition to come up with the best campaign. Sound good? Everybody with me? All right. And please continue to eat the food. As Seth said, no stomach to go hungry. I didn't have an end in mind when I started that campaign phrase. So please continue to eat. I will not be offended if your stomach is not growling. So multi-channel was a really difficult word to get Wiley as a publisher to put in a title. So I assume that is because they believe people don't know what multi-channel means, or because Wiley is a large publisher and they're mean. I'm not sure which one. But I want to start first by defining what multi-channel means, especially in the context of the book. So I could go, and not just could, but do, walk into a coffee shop, you're waiting in line to buy your coffee. So you take your phone out, you're checking your email, maybe you get a text message from someone, and then you open up, you get your coffee, you're sitting at the table, you open up Facebook. I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm going in between channels. I didn't say out loud to the person in line at Starbucks, isn't this interesting that I just went from email to Facebook right here in line on my smartphone? Like, as people, we don't think about the channels that we're using and that we're going in between. So as organizations, we should not be in a meeting saying, huzzah, we will create the one email that everyone will read, and that's how they'll get this information. But instead, we need to think about it the way when we're not at work, even we use technology. So it may be an email, but it also should have the version that's on Facebook about half hour later, so that if someone didn't read that email, but then they go online, they're still in that moment with your constituency, with your campaign. So that's really what multi-channel means in a very long, not really a definition way. I want to start with a few facts. The beginning of the book has some infographics in it. So if you have a book, Nancy has a book, she will show it to you all and show off the infographics. So I'm recognizing that the pink is maybe difficult to read. Anyone having a difficult? Okay. I do not want to belittle you by reading things on the screen, but sometimes I may. I'm just going to say that now. And it's not because I don't think you can read, but because it is in pink. And I did not choose the colors of our book. So the fact on top, maybe the harder one to read, is that 5.2 billion mobile accounts exist worldwide. That is a lot of mobile phones. And 1 in 2 mobile U.S. subscribers have a smartphone. So not just thinking about SMS and text messages, which are very important when you're thinking of multi-channel campaigns, but also, like I was saying before, reading that email on your phone. And we'll get to that later. But how many people, I heard a lot of people say they use Constant Contact, maybe one mention of MailChimp. Whatever tool you're using for your email marketing, is it something where you're making those emails readable on mobile phones, or just pretty when it's on a browser? Mobile phone, ready. 4 winners. Okay, when we split up into groups, everybody make sure you have one of those people in your group, and they'll tell you all about it. But what I'm alluding to, for the folks that didn't get to raise your hand, when you open up an email on your phone that was designed to be on a big computer screen, basically you probably see like this part of the email when all of that exists over there, and it's really difficult to read, and you immediately delete it. So making sure that when we're thinking about all those different, this man on his iPad, someone on a phone, someone on a computer, you don't have to create 5 different emails. If you're doing responsive, smart design, you can make sure that it automatically looks great to any audience. So an example here to throw in, Planned Parenthood using text, just reinforcing that that is a great universal communication channel, uses that as a way for people to text in questions that they have about, how do I know if I'm pregnant, or can I get like an STD from this thing that happened, or I don't know. Whatever those questions may be that you would feel like you want to chat with a Planned Parenthood representative about. And they have seen it only increase. So it's not like they saw calls go down. They just saw more people reaching out to them. So great metric for knowing that they're doing more to meet their mission, because now it's even more accessible for people to get that information that they need in the way they want it. So this is an interesting report that Pew ran a year after the Haiti everything, looking at donors. So there are these very lovely arrows that are already pointing out a couple of the things that I think are really interesting. But just to start at the very basic, people that use the internet. So national average, 78% of people use the internet at all. 97% of the people that use text to donate are people that are online. And then if we jump down here to use social networking sites, 64 is the national average, but 83% of those text donors use social media. Because, did anyone here text to donate after Haiti? How did you find out about it?
Text.
Through a text? TV. Yep, a lot of people found out from Facebook. Having, someone shared the post that's how you could donate. People saw it on Twitter when they were watching the Haiti hashtag and watching all the updates. So using social media and using the internet in general actually drove people to a totally different channel. So again, as we're thinking about campaigns and trying to call people to action, sometimes the call to action, you don't have to say, because I'm on Facebook, the call to action should be like this photo. You can still drive people to another channel if it's a good, consistent opportunity, I guess we'll say. A few specific to social media channels. These are what are kind of commonly considered the big five. So this is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, which Mitch mentioned, and what is this? Tumblr. And you can see across the top just some of the general demographic information. And it always gets tricky when you try and lump demographic data into social media, because the point here is that we're not saying no group doesn't use it. Like, every single group has people online. It's just that certain areas become more dominant or predominant. And then if we look up here, the number one website is Google, but number two is YouTube. Why? This is not the way I use the internet, but I cannot believe, I'm always surprised by how many people, when I tell them to go look something up, go to YouTube and then search. Why? Because they don't want to read the Wikipedia article about it. They want to have someone tell them about it in a 30-second video. So video and the way of digesting information by someone telling it to you is even above Facebook. So that should really tell us something.
On the chart to the right, Caucasians use YouTube a lot more than African Americans. Is that because there are more Caucasians than African Americans, or is there a disproportionate interest by different?
Yeah, some of both. The thing that's not reflected here, because this is just the racial demographics of group of the platforms, but something that I think is really interesting are the demographic uses of certain devices. And so, the number or the percentage of a certain demographic that uses a smartphone versus a computer is interesting and different, as well as those who use a mobile device, whether it's a phone or an iPad or whatever, as a primary internet access point versus a computer. Because those who are using their phone also as their main point of even getting online at all, they're definitely reading their email there. They're definitely looking at social media there. You need to make sure things are optimized and short and easy to download or whatever it may be, because they're not sitting in an office on a computer if they're in that group that's using their phone primarily. And Pew has a lot of great research that looks at that side of things. So before we even start doing the campaign, a few things that we need to consider. First is the idea of focusing on a shared goal with your community. So many organizations I've worked with are like, well, our community cares about everything we do. I love that you feel so confident about how much your community supports all of your work. But it turns out that's not the case. I mean, just think of a single organization that you support. Do you care about every facet of day-to-day function? Do you care about every single item that's on their board meeting agenda? No, because you don't have to, actually. But there's something in their mission, there's a campaign, there's a program that they run that really does get you fired up. And to reverse that, as the organization, figuring out what those pieces are that actually get people fired up is the place where you could actually focus a campaign. Not that you don't ever talk about all the rest of your work, but tonight we're talking about advocacy campaigns. So really getting people to take an action and move something forward. So it has to start somewhere that you know they care about and not just that they're generally interested that you do. How do you even figure out what people are interested in? You may ask, and many people do. So this is just a really easy example from NWF, but you can get really advanced with this. You can do whatever you like. But basically, this is their email sign-up form. So if you want to join their mailing list, you can do that. You can see the only things that are required is your name and email and your zip code. Zip code is an extremely useful field to collect when you're collecting people's email so that you can segment really easily and say, hey, we know that all of you in, I don't know, Pennsylvania county names, but like all of you in Porter County, this is for you. And then you don't have to send that email to everyone else. So that's a really great thing to include. But over here, totally optionally, they let you tell them the kinds of things you're interested in. And this is what I think is really interesting. So it has animals and their behavior, birds and birding. Well, some people would think, aren't birds animals? Not birders. They want that called out separately. So knowing your community also means even knowing what to really list here. But you can always add a new button. You can always refine this later. But including these, again, totally optionally, means that in your database, you can start to say, oh my gosh, not a single person has ever signed up for gardening. Let's stop the gardening blog, like no one's interested, whatever that may be. No offense to gardeners. I'm just saying as an example. But that's a great way to get feedback all the time, and then to say 50% of our list is interested in children's activities, and we have the opportunity for this campaign that's coming up to have a children's activity twist. Let's do that because we know half our list is interested.
Amy, is this presentation available already online that we can direct people to? Or will it be soon?
It will be soon.
All right, thank you.
So another thing just to have as kind of a lens as you're planning your campaign is the idea for designing for distribution. So a lot of people will think, I've worked with an organization, for example, who had this terrific, in their minds, campaign designed about information, like once everyone in the world sees this infographic and knows the truth, things will change. So they had this beautiful infographic that they spent a ton of money on, having a designer. Do you hear that sound? Okay. Is it driving anyone else crazy? Because I feel like I've offended the birders, and now there's like a bird sound.
I think it's feedback from you myself.
But I'm not crossing.
There it is. Yeah.
You can't move. Yeah.
It's a truck outside?
Yeah.
It's a mobile park with birds.
For a second, I thought it was actually April Fool's, and I almost said that I'd been fooled, and then I realized, don't say that, it's April 2nd. And now I've just said the whole thing. Well, we will just deal with the sound. Others continue to hear it. We'll deal. But so this organization paid thousands of dollars for a designer to build them this infographic, and that was going to be their campaign. And they put it up on their website. No sharing links, nothing. And then got upset and disappointed that, all of us, the citizens of the social web, weren't sharing it and getting excited about it and talking about it. But all the information, the story that was in that data was never presented to be distributed around the web in any way. So not that you have to know the ins and outs of every single message before you even plan your campaign, but it's just something to think about. And Occupy is a great example because from the very beginning, it was, hey, you are, as the community, invited to create this content. You know, you can pull up your phone and start live streaming things, or you could write a blog post or whatever. And that's the extreme where everyone is creating the content of the campaign. But it's a great example just of how many different versions of one story there could be versus you trying to say there's only one and it's currently at this very long URL, which won't ever get shared. So there's a happy medium to work towards. And some of that means using public platforms that aren't yours. So this is a screenshot from Meetup Everywhere, where just a month after the first Occupy camp in New York, there were over 1,000 of them posted by individuals on Meetup Everywhere around the world. Because, you know, someone decided to post it on a public space where other people could then, you know, also post their own event. So even though there were official blogs and websites and Tumblrs and all the rest, going and making sure some of your content is available in those places where people are already searching helps it get distributed as well. So here's an interesting example, again, just to kind of change your mind of how you're thinking of how people are interacting. Oxfam had this fundraising campaign where they had celebrities donate, you know, the dress they wore to the Oscars or whatever other example is like that, you know, clothes that they would auction off. And they put all the clothes in kind of like a store, so you could go in and check them out. And hanging on them was a tag, like, you know, like a little tag, like a price tag, but it had a QR code. And so if you walked up and, with your phone, scanned the QR code, in this case, Annie Lennox is talking about this dress that she wore that's now for auction that she was wearing when she met Nelson Mandela. And this memory of that whole experience. And so you are instantly transported, again in video, where you have so much more of the feeling of the person's story, to getting to hear from her, and then, oh, terrific, now I will wear this dress, thank you very much, that I just purchased. So it was a great way of bringing all the stories in, instead of just saying, hey, we have a bunch of famous clothes, come buy them for this fundraiser. They connected the stories to all the articles of clothing. So, 8 steps. There's a lot more work to do, but
I was wondering on the example, which is great you gave, any information on the impact of that readability that you could share?
As far as how much money did they raise, or
raise more? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to say the total I'm thinking of because apparently this is being broadcast to outer space right now. But I will send you the actual information that I have confirmed instead of just speaking off the top of my head. But it was definitely successful. They were really happy about it. Terrific. Look at these 2 people getting food, just as any of you that are still hungry should be doing. Thank you. So the 8 steps. Like I was saying, there's a lot more work to do, but this is in the advocacy chapter, the 8 basic steps that we outline as far as creating the plan, creating an advocacy plan. Number 1, goals. We always start with goals first because we are humans and get really excited about shiny things if we let ourselves talk about the tools first. Because if I had started this by saying, YouTube, go create a YouTube campaign, we would be here all night like planning the craziest videos ever, and it would have nothing to do with our missions. So instead, we start with the mission and figure out what the goal of the campaign is going to be. And when it comes to advocacy campaigns, multi-channel campaigns where it's going to be a distributed message, there's going to be probably lots of components and versions of that message, what you can say in an email versus a tweet. Solving world hunger doesn't really resonate with Twitter. People care, but it's nothing that's going to get you to retweet something or get you engaged. But if you could instead say, we're raising $25,000 to support this specific soup kitchen, $25,000 equals 300 meals. Let's go. it's so much more tangible and it's really shareable, especially like even just turning this sentence into a tweet and, you know, having a hashtag for DC. And now all those people in DC that care and follow that hashtag are now into this, etc. So the more specific and tangible you make it, it also implies how you can share it. And we'll get to that. So here is the example from the soup kitchen that Allyson worked with. And I know I feel like I need to create shade or something that makes it easier to read. But I don't have to read it all to you. But again, I will share the slides, and that way you can read it at your leisure. But these are just the specific goals that they outlined to that main campaign from last year. Next up is identifying your target. So just as much as world hunger isn't a goal, just saying that we're going to change the world is also not a target for your campaign. So again, you want to be as specific as you can. And it may be that you have an advocacy target that is separate from your community. You may need the president to do something, but you're probably not going to just start emailing the president or like, you know, sending tweets only to him. You probably need other people to join you in doing that. So the advocacy target may or may not also be your supporters. And just as we had those like the birders and the gardeners, etc., your campaign may not be touching every single person in your list because they may not all be interested in it, which goes back to that previous time 10 minutes ago when we were talking about figure out what they want. These are just some examples of how you could be pretty generic, college students, or really specific of people in your list. You know, maybe you're an after-school program organization and you have parents that have kids of all ages, and this is only a campaign to those in pre-K. Next up is to craft the core message and the hook. This is where I see a lot of organizations get really excited because this is like where we all become madmen and we get to come up with like this really great catchphrase. It turns out that sometimes catchphrases don't make great campaigns. So you still want this to tie to that goal, to what that message is. So here's a couple examples where it's still a catchy, great core message, but it's tied to the goal. Again, I don't need to read them to you. These two were exciting because they say things like boobs in them and that like Twitter goes crazy, and then you have lots of people realizing that now they just retweeted a thing about like false cancer screenings, you know, but it had the word boob in it, so they did it anyway. And, you know, what's one more retweet on the campaign? The fourth step, we're halfway through, is figuring out the action. So to go back to that example from before where we said we need $25,000 for 300 meals in December, clearly the action is to donate. But for other campaigns, and I think I have a couple examples. Yes, couple examples. You may have more than one. You may have donate and share, for example. So here is NWF's Twitter stream after the oil spill. So their very first action that they were asking people to take was to share the facts. Because, again, back to that previous example of the infographic, this time they knew they couldn't just create one big truth, but they had to share updates as they got them and to encourage people to share them with their networks. And then they followed up that with getting donations. So they took donations in all different forms, whether, you know, text, online, etc. And here's a snapshot of their email series. So people that came into the list because of the oil spill got this message first, and you can see really big buttons to take action, and then they could follow it up and follow it up. So they had this series ready to go to bring people in from the biggest, like, scary picture, take this urgently, you know, action, and then start building it out into stories and pieces once they got the people in initially. So understanding how your supporters think, and I couple that with number 6, which is understanding how they talk. So understanding how they think, part of that means where do they stand on this issue, what's going to compel them to take this action, but then coupling that with how do they even speak, it really changes what we mean when we say what compels them. You know, if they're someone that only gets direct mail, and we already said that the thing that gets them is their friends, well then how are you going to make it clear in that direct mail piece that their friends took that action? So maybe they don't care what their friends do, but they love email and they really like information and knowing all of the news. Okay, so how does that change what that email looks like compared to that NWF one where it was really clearly, you know, pictures of the animals? So does that make sense what I'm trying to say? So with direct mail, for example, that the version I said where someone really cares about their friends or other people taking the action, but you're doing a really traditionally thought of stale kind of message, you can still do things like because you're in zip code, whatever, you know what zip code, you're mailing it, you know, you can say 50% of people on your street took this action last year, which is something that organizations have done. Don't totally lie because then you're not very credible, but use your data, send messages to high action neighborhoods and say, you know, this is how many people we saw in your neighborhood take this action. Peer pressure works every time. Turns out that is our Achilles heel as humans, is peer pressure. When public radio did a study on phone banking donations, they tested out, so if I'm on the phone, I forget your name. Paul. So if Paul calls in to donate and I say, oh, Paul, the last donor donated 50, he is more likely to now donate that much. But if I say, oh, the last man that called donated 50, he is even more likely to increase his donation to beat that other guy. Same with women, if you say the last woman who called. So creating those hooks to how we think, how we talk, what motivates us, even though it's still obviously in the context of the campaign, you know, you can build those in at every stage. It doesn't just have to be on Facebook or just in email. I'm curious, because I know there were some people in the room who had campaign or communication calendars, or the woman in the back who did it all herself. So you have a meeting every day with your team. So I'm curious how many people use campaign calendars or communications calendars. Okay, this side of the room is winning. I think these are really crucial, and the fact that they are unlucky number and end of the list 7 does not reflect how important I think they are. But they're crucial, and I see a lot of organizations get the idea of a calendar as far as like kind of like a matrix, like here are all of our channels, and then they put the launch of the campaign on all of the channels. There is the plan. Instead of launch day 1 and then all the pieces that come after it. So that's really the most important part, is like day 2 onward versus we have launched the campaign on every channel we own. Do you have a question?
Yeah. How about how you have any suggestion of how you time touch 1 versus touch 2 versus touch 3 and across channels? I mean, is there best practices?
Well, so there's no magic answer of, you know, you need to tweet 5 times a day on Mondays and, you know, post on Facebook at 4. Like, there isn't a perfect magic number to it. But most of the research shows that on email, most organizations are emailing their list less often than they could or should be. So organizations have seen even 6 emails in a month to not have people unsubscribing. If you go more than a month without emailing someone, the chances that they don't open or don't click because they no longer remember who you are is high. So make sure you're at least messaging people, regularly. And it doesn't always have to just be a newsletter. There could be all different components. This is an example from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So they ran a campaign called Totally Baldacious. It's a very fun campaign. It was about, obviously, leukemia and lymphoma. And it you could upload a photo or you could take your photo, and then it basically made you bald and had you share the photo and information about the campaign, etc. So this is an example of their communications calendar. So these are the dates. And I know it's kind of blurry. So from the top all the way down to here is the same day. And then this is the same day, and then down. And then these are the goals. So again, just like in this process of steps, even in their campaign calendar, they're including the goals so that you remember when you're framing that message, oh, this is about an action? Great. This needs to be really, the words need to be really action-oriented. Oh, and this one is about money? Well, let's make it really focused on that. So keeping these in here will help everyone, whether it's you or a teammate that's creating the communications. Keep them in the frame of reference for their purpose. So here's project, audience, and then what the theme is, or what the actual content of the message is going to be. And I know it's colorful and probably blurry and hard to read, but that's just an example. You don't have to know the specifics of their content to get kind of what they're going for here. I would say that when it comes to your specific question about frequency of messages, emails, you are going to want to have the second part, message number 2, be within a week. Again, just so that people remember. So I just did a transaction on the website. I donated. I signed up. I immediately should get an email that says, thanks, you did this thing. Here it is. Should be branded, so I start getting familiar with what your emails look like. And then the next message should be a week later with the next step. Whether it's more information, whether it's here's the next action you can take, whatever that is, a week later. If you can time it, exactly a week later, whatever you want to do, that's actually not too frequent. That's
not too. You're very specific when you say a week, not 2 weeks.
I would encourage you to test 1 week versus 2 weeks.
Thank you.
But my testing has shown 1 week to be better. So all of our campaigns, the second message is a week later. And we actually run both timed campaigns, like, we've decided we're going to run this campaign, and then we have what we call auto campaigns. So something that I don't need to run because it just means you signed up with us, and I want to make sure in the background, the robots of the internet are making sure that you have this engagement with us. So you still get that very first email. A week later, you get another email. And that goes for 4 messages. So you get 1 instantly, and then 3 timed a week apart that build people up a ladder. And then after that, you're then kicked into our normal messaging. You're smiling like I'm a crazy person.
Not at all. It's my job.
All right, we've reached number 8. So now this is actually planning or identifying your tactic for how you're going to reach people in different online communities. And a lot of people that I have worked with maybe sometimes consider the internet as a whole a community of one. Anyone work with or personally feel that the internet is all the same? No one? Well, then I will introduce you to a lot of organizations who believe that to be the case. So this is not where you say, this is our Facebook plan and this is our Twitter plan, because they're not going to have separate plans. Your plan is your campaign plan. However, different online platforms, different online communities are like neighborhoods inside of a city. So even though you have one campaign for all of Philadelphia, for example, your neighborhood-specific tactics or maybe the volunteer that you send to that neighborhood, the story that you're highlighting about your campaign is going to be different so that it resonates with the people that live in that community. It's the same approach to online platforms, and that doesn't just mean, social networks are one thing and email is another, but maybe, Facebook we know has a lot of people like this in our community, and LinkedIn are more of these types of our community. Obviously, you have to fill in all those blanks yourself. But that's really the point, is not that you just treat everyone the same, but you recognize the different stories and components of your campaign that you can highlight across channels that all come back into the same campaign or the same ask. So a few things to consider as you're getting started. And this is to the email series question. We get asked about email a lot, and so we have a slide just about email, turns out. But this is just an example of a 3-part series of how, in one campaign, you could lay out the story. So starting is the story overall and what your plans are. In the middle would be a message about how things are going and how people can still take part. And then at the end is a message of the, kind of last update. This is where we've gotten. And then another push for taking that action or doing it again, whatever the case may be. So a few tips. The first one, because number 7, the campaign calendar, is very important, is to actually follow it, but also to update it. So as you go, you may get halfway into your campaign and realize, you know what, no one on Facebook is engaging with this campaign, so just stop. You don't have to force it. If the portion of your community that's on Facebook isn't interested, then take that out and figure out what is working and go with that. Maybe people on email are doing a lot and they don't want to share it on Facebook, or the other way around. So don't feel like just because you identified every channel in the world on your campaign calendar that you have to maintain content on all of those. But if you are putting content on a channel and people are engaging, don't stop. So make sure that your campaign calendar is sustainable, that you've only identified channels that you can actually continue to post to throughout the campaign. We talked about tailoring messaging just a minute ago. I am curious about folks segmenting your email list now. Nodding your head. What kind of segments do you use now?
Geographical.
Uh-huh.
And by participation in the events that people attend.
So if they came to an event or didn't. And then geographical by continent, country?
A little of each, yeah.
Okay.
We do regional within the United
Okay.
States as well.
Great. Anyone else doing segmenting? Yeah, what do you guys use?
Interests.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So that a particular, if you're asking for something that they're interested in that particular item.
Uh-huh. Awesome.
Big metropolitan areas, clergy, people who have expressed special interest in some special aspect of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Was there another hand back here somewhere? Uh-huh.
Member organizations is a big one too. You find if you're a member, then you get special mail.
Yep. Yep. And as a membership organization at N10, we definitely segment by member or non-member. But other things that we found to be really useful are job type. So when someone puts in, this is my name, my org, my title, whatever, associating those your job title fields with categories. So anyone that put IT or technology or website in their title, we put into a funnel that we call like IT and web. And then when we message them, we can say, we know that this would be of interest to someone like you who's really focused on technology every day at your job. And then they say, well, I am focused on technology every day in my job. So we didn't have to get them to sign up, that they were interested in tech, but because it was in their job title. Same with marketing or communications. Well, you can directly put that into a segment because you have their title. Or anything, CEO, CIO, ED, all of those, terrific to be able to put in a subject line, this is for nonprofit leaders like you. Well, I am a nonprofit leader. I'm the ED. So using some of those bits of content you get just when people sign up as a way to inform a segment is really helpful too.
You just said the word subject lines.
Uh-huh.
How important is a subject line? And have you done some tests on this?
We have done some tests on this. Subject lines are extremely critical because it turns out you read the subject line before the email. So they are very important. Unfortunately, humans are extremely fickle about what they like in subject lines. So we do A/B testing all the time.
On subject.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And what we will do is say we're going to send a newsletter to 1,000 people. We send the same email, but with different subject lines, to 100 people each. Whichever got the best, we send the rest of the 800 to. So that way you're doing as much as you can to get the most opens. And some of the things we've found are very counterintuitive. We've found that a really long subject line gets more people to open it. Why? People, it's so ugly with a long subject line. Why are you all reading this message? I don't know.
Systematically?
So now we don't shy away from writing I can't bring myself to write really long ones every time. But, by testing it, we realized that worked. For our member newsletter, again, separate from the general newsletter, we had thought people want to know what's in the newsletter, so we should put in the subject line some of the titles. Nope. More readers when the subject line starts, member news, blah, blah, blah. Why? I don't know. I don't know what is wrong with 60,000 people on the end-to-end news list. But, I go with it. I just listen to the data. I don't question. I question it, but, I can only do what I can do. So subject line is really important. And I'm pretty sure, Constant Contact is always updating their systems, but the last time I talked with them, they had an A/B testing feature, so you could say, I want to try two differences. Yeah.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
In a similar vein, have you done any testing? Do any testing exist as to content in the body of a newsletter, whether less is more is more?
Right. And so what we've seen is that it's not about how much is in it, but about how it's broken up. So that email where, hold on, I'm going to really, there it was. This one, where this looks really long, that's multiple scrolls, but because it's broken up like this, it actually still does really well. Because in your mind, you only read this hyperlink thing, that, so you're actually reading less because they broke it up really well. So we've tried different things to figure out what breaks things up and isn't just bullet points. One thing we found was, so when you have your HTML, your template like this, if next to the content it has some design, and then even just the sidebar breaking up the content, even that helps people skim quickly. So you can still put a lot in there. But again, it has to be, to Steve's point, good content anyway. It can't just be along for the ride. But I would encourage you to test that and let me know what you find.
And then one more question.
Uh-huh.
Who might provide you the test?
Yes.
In terms of graphics.
Uh-huh.
Or is there a general sense that bigger pictures work better, no pictures, small pictures, pictures with kids?
Yeah, babies and animals. If you work in those sectors, you will do well. Humane Society, when you sign up, the key thing they want other than your zip code is if you work or if you associate as a dog person or a cat person, so that every time you get an email, you are getting a cat in that email or a dog in that email. So, find that critical piece for you. I would say, at least in the organizations I've worked with, visuals are helpful as far as breaking up the content, but just having a beautiful email of a photo does really poorly. Because except for the one person that had the correct resolution screen that saw the picture correctly, everyone else saw this part of this duck and was like, what is that? You know? So we've moved away from visuals that are actually like a big visual like this and more into buttons. Because then even if you're on a phone and you're moving the message around, it's clear that even though it was a visual element and it broke up the text, it's still an action. They can still be clicking on it. And then the other thing I would say with visuals is if you were writing this and inevitably it's signed by someone down here, this should have a picture of who this person is next to it. So it's like, I want to know who, maybe that's an L, Larry. I want to know who Larry is. And I also would then segment that message. So if you had signed up because you'd taken the action versus you had donated, if I had taken the action, I want that to be signed by the program officer that runs that program that you just took an action for. And if you just donated, I want it signed by, the whoever, development director, saying, thank you, this is my job to thank you. A lot of organizations don't know or connect with the ED or the CEO because that's one person, but being able to see an email with a face and have it say, this is the program director, of our oil spill campaign or whatever, it creates much more of a real connection that you see why you took that action. So I think that's a really easy visual. You have staff headshots,
Another question about subject lines.
Yeah.
What do you think about the very vague subject lines that I'm getting? It seems recently like unbelievable, or have you read this from an identifiable organization?
Right.
Why are they going to this?
Yeah. I would encourage you to test that. So one thing that you can do, so if this was our email template, and, we have at the top a big image at the top. How many people have a big image at the top of your newsletter template? Most people. So I'm going to be very technical. Just bear with me. So in the alt text of this image, so instead of writing like oil spill crisis header as your image name, instead write, I'm writing today to help you take this urgent action. That's horrible. Don't really say that. Because then, so this subject line we can see wasn't very long. In my email preview, what I see is this header text. So I would read this, and then I would immediately see, I'm writing today to urge you to take this action, or whatever gobbledygook I just made up. So when you see those really short subjects, it's because they're testing putting call to actions here, so that in your email it actually says, like, can you believe this? So-and-so just did whatever. That second sentence you're reading is coming from this. Instead of, it doesn't jump to this when it's reading your email. So I would say, if you're going to play with the subject line and make it short and vague and silly, make sure that second sentence that's coming from your header image is really strong.
Are the organizations getting positive feedback from this stuff?
I haven't heard a lot that have, but, they keep doing it. I'm sure someone's getting great feedback or good results.
I'm wondering where the role of spam filters comes in.
Uh-huh.
You're trying to create content and short subjects and interesting words that get the eyeballs of the reader.
Mm-hmm.
The reader's got a spam detector that wants to stop you from doing that.
Right.
So how do you address that?
Probably not writing boobs all the time would help. We can start with that. One trick that we have tried and I've done with different organizations is, when we were saying before, when you immediately signed up for the newsletter or you donated or you took some action, somehow you got your email into the list for the very first time, that first message that goes out, if that's a plain text email, and so spam isn't probably going to pick it up, and it's very clear that it's from the organization and has all that information, Well, now your email history shows an open from that email address, from that domain. So the likelihood that your next messages, especially if you open the next couple because they've been sent frequently and you're ready to learn more about the organization, it just increases the likelihood that you won't get put into spam. Not that it's foolproof, you'll still have to make sure that, encourage people not to mark you as spam and things like that. But was there a question over here somewhere? All right. Let me find. I think now it is time for the campaign challenge. Oh, that is conveniently what I titled the slide. Good job, past self. So, what we're going to do is we are going to keep eating until all of the hoagies are gone. That is step number 1. Step number 2 is we're going to form groups. I will empower you to select the size of group that feels comfortable to you. But I would encourage it to be 4 people minimum so that you have a good brain space collectively. Sit wherever you would like, configure the chairs however you would like, but get into groups of 4 or more. And then I will add the first step to the slide. So, please, at your own pace, find your groups of 4 or more.
How long is it?
It's only 5 questions, and it'll just be a couple minutes each. So, not very much longer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, likewise.
Alright, so our campaign is getting kicked off. Sorry. For every document you've been on the call here outside.
Yeah, I'll come over here.
All right. It looks like we are getting closer to being in groups. It's a positive step forward. I'm going to continue to talk, which will hopefully make it socially awkward, and you will all finish getting in groups. Still talking. This group in the front continues to grow. That's fine. That's fine. All right. So there's going to be 5 questions. I am going to talk, hopefully, over the other talking. Terrific. So there's going to be 5 questions. That is 10. There will be 5 questions. And I encourage you to either make up an organization, or if you can peaceably choose just one of your organizations, sometimes that creates some drama, that just one organization is getting to be in the center. So if that is the case in your group, just kindly encourage your friends to make up an organization. But it needs to be rooted in reality. You can't be like, the nonprofit established for zombie warfare or something. I know. That I already saw it on all of your minds. So a real organization, if it can be one of yours, so be it. If not, please make something up that's realistic. So all together, you're going to be brainstorming, thinking up ideas. I'll float around, and other people are welcome to float around if you want to be a floater. Social butterfly may be a nicer word. And at the end, hopefully, you can then stand up and present from your group your answers to the 5 questions about this campaign that you have created. And then we will all vote to win the pride of winning the campaign that we would all want to take. What? And the hoagies. And the hoagies, yes. You also win any remaining sandwiches. So the first question, what is your goal and your target? take it away. Small group. All right, to keep us moving forward,
Something about
always onward. Oh, Steve has unmuted me. I'm going to put up the second question. You're going to just keep flowing with conversation, but now you're going to identify what the core message and the action you want them to take. Okay? Continue. How do people feel? People feel like you have a core message and you have made it to this stage, or you need more time? Raise your hand if you need more time. Okay, all right. If you need more time, continue to take more time. For the overachievers on this other side of the room who are already ready for the next stage, we're going to move ahead. Step 3 is thinking about the multi-channel approach. So this is some of those questions about, what's the nuance for maybe different communities within this whole community you're trying to reach. What elements are you going to use? You're going to use email and SMS or Facebook, so thinking about all those different channels you want to employ. I hear some great conversations happening, so to reward all of this great conversation, I will give you another question. How does that sound? So now, this is, how will you know if it's working in real time? So what that really says is, how are you evaluating this as it goes? How are you measuring if that message resonated on an email or people liked it on Facebook? So evaluation, but this isn't just 5 months later and you say, yes, we raised all the money, but real-time evaluation. All right. Even if you did not finish and you're not now launching this terrific new campaign you brainstormed, let's all come back together. The fifth question is a zinger or whatever. The fifth question is, who wins? And Seth has decided that the way we will now vote after everyone gets a chance to present their campaign idea is you will throw your lanyard at the group that you would like to win. I just want to say again, Seth decided this. It's not me being extremely aggressive and wanting to throw pink lanyards around. I think it is an attempt at beginning to collect them again. So the winners will be cleaning the room, basically. So I'm going to ask that you walk through the 4 questions, or as much of the 4 questions as you got through as a group. So, who would like to present first? And you will all have to present eventually. And I am also happy to call on people. Any volunteers? No volunteers. Terrific. We're going to start in the back. Oh, do you need a... Okay.
Our campaign is actually modeled after a real campaign for Tikva House.
Okay.
Which is an organization that raises money for subsidized housing for people with special needs. So that's what the organization does. The campaign, for the first question, our goal and our target. So our goal is to raise $1 million to build a building, which will be for special needs housing for people that have special needs so that they can have their own place to live. And our targets are corporations.
Okay.
People who have families with special needs because they would then have an affinity to that particular cause. Federal housing sponsors, because they're also a group that actually, that's the reason that they exist, to give to organizations such as ours. And people that also work in fields that are attached to special needs, such as doctors who may attend to people with special needs, or psychiatrists, or whatever, that type of thing. So either people that have, the majority of them have some attachment already to the cause in some way, whether it's peripheral or not. Okay. And then the core message is that by giving money, you can help a special needs person have a home.
Excellent.
And it's pretty simple, but that's what it is.
Yep.
And then the action to take is to give money. So that's right, exactly. So our multi-channel approach, a number of things. So we're using emails and direct mail and also Facebook. We'll talk about Twitter, but I guess we can put Twitter in there. And YouTube, a multi-channel. The majority of the more public social channels to, first of all, announce the campaign and say that this is what we're doing. And there actually is also, this is a real thing, but there was a fashion show that they're having also to help raise the money. So part of it is, to kind of announce that, just to announce the campaign, announce in particular this one event is coming up, and there would be abilities for text to donate. And I cannot read my own writing. There would be videos where we would have people who have special needs who would talk about, what a home would mean to them if they had, their own place of their own to live, how important that would be, and or people who have already benefited from the organization, so they do have a home, and kind of like now how do they feel, now that they have the home, and
how are you evaluating it in real time? How do you know if messages are resonating?
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, well, for the direct mail, there's going to be envelopes as part of it. So first of all, there would be checks coming in. We're also going to be encouraging them to perhaps go to the videos, so we'll be able to check and see, how many people are seeing the videos. But although you wouldn't necessarily know if it's direct mail, because there's going to be a number of ways that we will be directing people to the videos. But we will be able to get a count of who's watching the videos. And then at the end of the videos, there will be a call to action where we would be directing them to go to the website, and we would actually have a special landing page so that we would be able to more accurately target who if they're doing something with the campaign, that's where it's coming from. And we're going to count likes and click-throughs from Facebook again, because we're going to have these particular pages, and count the money.
Awesome. Yay. Thanks, group back of the room on the right. Somebody from this group?
We have to go next?
You get to go next, Nancy.
It's all the way you say it.
We'll stand here if anybody wants to jump in. I'm going to go off by the steps. So, what's your goal and your target? So we actually have a name, and the name of the project is Project Inclusion. And the goal is to eliminate stigma against people with disabilities. So we know that. And then we talked about what's our core message and action. And we're looking at a core message of people with disabilities are like everyone else. And then what's the action? That's where we all got hung up. And we're doing storytelling, and that's the action of we want to be able to have people tell stories so that other people can learn about interacting with people with disabilities, but also learn ways so that they can then be more comfortable and maybe go up and talk to a person with a disability or do something, include somebody with a disability that they've never done before. And so I was telling a story, and Marissa was telling a great story at the same time of something that happened to her that we think is a good example. Do you want to quickly tell that story?
Sure.
So on St. Patrick's Day, I went out to the bar like every young girl does, and I rolled into a guy in a wheelchair. No, just kidding. And he was, with all his friends and having a great time, and I didn't really think anything of it. I think somebody told me his story about how he became disabled, and I left the bar and never heard from him again. But I was posting pictures that night on Instagram, a social media site. And this guy liked my picture. I saw him, recognized him, and we connected through Instagram. And I pretty much fell in love with him via Instagram because he's so cute, and he works at Trader Joe's, he drives his own car, he's going to school, and it really changed my life and how I'm not even kidding. It really changed my life. And that's my story.
So to segue from changing Marissa's life, we're talking about probably and possibly how a person with a disability changed my life, and then tell those stories. And the multi-channel approach that we were talking about was to use maybe to start Facebook and Instagram so that we could use the photographs, and from there link people to either our website or a blog to learn more about it, and then ask them to push off to Twitter to tell maybe their own stories or get other people to tell their stories and create this cycle of the circle of going around from Facebook to Instagram and also YouTube. And another example was maybe having people do extreme things. From this, we would then start watching statistics and see where it was working and make changes based upon those statistics. How was that?
That was terrific.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see this Instagram campaign.
Well, this is an interesting thread because our project is also concerning disabilities and housing, integration into a community.
We're getting very meta. I can only anticipate what the fourth group has for us.
My foundation will be. So, what was our goal? Our goal was slightly different than others, is to become integrated into the community first. We have a target community, and so therefore we approached different people and asked some questions about how we could do this. The target was that we wanted to participate in our local farmers market. So we approached them and they said, yes, we certainly want you to be there and to sell flowers. Because
you approached the farmers market.
I approached the farmers market in Media, Pennsylvania, and I asked them if they would allow us to participate by selling our vegetables and or flowers. And they said, are you certified by the Department of Agriculture to sell vegetables? And we said no. Okay, well then you can't sell. So therefore they said, okay, you can sell flowers, but you have to raise the flowers yourself. So that was our goal and our target, and we made it. What is our core message? Our core message is to show that our young adults, including my daughter, who has autism, are really no different than anybody else, and that they can become productive in the community and help out and provide services. And the action is that they will actually do volunteer efforts throughout Media, Pennsylvania. In Media, Pennsylvania, we have a time bank. So therefore, our young adults are members of the time bank. They fulfill requests that people have, and they get paid in time dollars. And then they can then expend them back out into the community to get something in return. And that's part of the measure, not only by selling the flowers, we'll get a measurement of how things are going, but as someone also measured, what about the counterpart? How about spending and participating back into the community? So that's where the volunteer efforts through the time bank will be, and then we can measure how many hours of transactions that people do. A multi-channel approach, skipped over that one, is that we hope to have a website with the continuing saga of our story going along, with little video clippets, as you mentioned, as well as some blogs. And each one of our young adults has their own Facebook account, so they can also promote and tell other people what they've done. And hopefully that will spread the information around.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, group 4. Meta. Or you can go a totally different route. That's also on the table.
Well, in a loose way, we took on an existing organization called, it's a funny name, IMAC, standing for Interfaith Moral Action on Climate. And the goal, and it's a real organization, its goal is to mobilize religious communities in America to use their spiritual and political strength to move the country away from fossil fuels and toward renewable energy. Okay, that's the overall thing. We began taking up, oh, really? I thought I was talking loud enough. We began taking up what might be an actual campaign for the next year, with the goal of the campaign being that 1 year from now, maybe 15 major religious denominations in the U.S. would be in the process of, if not completing, divesting from big oil, big coal, big unnatural gas. And then the question was what action and how we would go about this. We realized there would be two ways. One would be to start at the top of those organizations, but that wouldn't involve the social media. And so we focused on what it would mean to begin with grassroots organizing to get people to do this, to demand those changes from their own denominational leaderships. Things like clergy pension funds, et cetera, which have big pots of money. And so we began to talk about how to time and focus a message that would actually reach people and then get them to do something. And we hadn't really worked out what the action, should the action be that they write us and a leader of their own denomination at the same time, so that we know they're actually acting, they know that they are taking action, and the leaders of their denomination learn. We didn't really get to what it would mean to use a multi-channel approach. Okay, I think that's, anybody want to add to any of that?
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. All right, so now please remove your lanyard from your neck.
Oh, wait, we have one more.
Oh, do the internet group. Speak for the internet.
My name is Andrew, and I speak for the internet.
Yes.
So we actually had a very difficult problem because we have a bunch of people who are streaming online, and they're all contributing, and it's basically me trying to write it all down. So forgive me, our answers are not going to be nearly as structured as yours, because like you might expect from the internet, there are a lot of great ideas, and they all just kind of flew out on a Google Doc. So I will go through very quickly, for the sake of time, what we talked about, and then what our plan of action was. So the goal that was determined by the crowd was that we have a long-term goal of a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics. It's not hard, right?
The first time hearing of this.
Right. And with a shorter-term goal of getting states to pass resolutions asking the federal government for a constitutional amendment. And we played around vaguely with the idea of getting signatures for an online petition, and using that as kind of our action step, what we're interested in doing. And so our core message, and we have a lot of them, maybe I'll tweet the link to the document, but the one we kind of settled on as a crowd, as it were, is just a really quick phrase, which is American citizens, people elect legislators, not corporations. We also did have another one, American citizens take back the government. The multi-channel approach, we have, there are just a ton of things that I could say right now about for the multi-channel approach, but every channel you could possibly think of was mentioned at one point, and the highlights are the social media that Occupy Wall Street utilized, things like Twitter and live streaming of video. Seems like something that would be very applicable in this sort of thing, especially since a lot of the demographics for the people who are very interested in this are going to be the same. We talked about using different mediums specifically in targeting, using different channels to target the natural demographics of those individuals. So younger people might be more interested in Facebook, and then older people might be more interested in some other social media not yet listed in our document, but give us a little bit. And then finally, how do we know it's going to work? We were measuring how it's going to work on either traffic on our website, a number of petitions, and then somebody also mentioned, why don't we monitor Google Alerts? Though if you monitor Google News, Google Alerts is kind of getting flaky recently. But at any rate, we could use that to kind of see what people are saying about us. And then Mary actually came up with a really great idea just right after we closed the conversation, which was why not turn the petition into a competition among the states? So represent your state. See, I'm from Idaho. Why doesn't my state think this is important? I need to get all my buddies to sign this petition so that Idaho represents in this this great national competition to have our citizens' voices heard, as it were. That is the quick summary. I will tweet the whole document in case you're very interested. And apologies for not being as succinct as all of you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Now you may remove your lanyard. And if you have already come to a conclusion about whose campaign you think you would have taken action in or you think has somehow won, please prepare your throwing arm. You will throw your lanyard at the group that won.
You may bring them over and toss them.
Tossing gently wasn't what Seth originally told me. He said pummel the life out of the group that won with these pink lanyards. No, that's not true. But indicate in the way that best suits you where you think the winningest of campaigns exists in the room, and then we will give a round of applause, and that team will forever have the pride of winning, and then we will clean up the lanyards. You do not have to leave after the winner is announced. You are welcome to stay and network. I can see at least 2 hoagies, so at least 2 more people need to eat a sandwich. And there are only 3 copies of the book left.
That's right. So $25, we are taking credit card, cash, check. So if you would love this lovely book after seeing our lovely speaker and having autograph it, please purchase them before you leave.
All right. On the count of 3, 3 is a number, 3 is not go. Go follows 3. Please indicate the winner. 1, 2, 3. I need a... Yay! Yay! All right. It looks like it was maybe a tie between the group in the front and the internet. Can we just have a collective win? Yay! We all plus the internet won tonight. Good job, team. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're going to just wrap it up now. First of all, I want to thank Amy for coming in from New York and doing this for us.
Of course! I'm the action!
And Amy will stick around while we break down. And, of course, anyone who's invited, anyone who's interested can come out for a bite and a drink afterwards if they like to continue the conversation. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.